Nora Grossman is the CEO at Voca, a community engagement platform whose mission is to strengthen democracy by simplifying and expanding civic participation. Voca conducts micropolls via text message to a group of over 40,000 California residents about state and local issues. With a background as a software engineer and a passion for user experience and product development, Nora joined Voca in 2019 with the goal of leveraging her technical skills to bring increased transparency, equity, and unity to that sounds like the Superman thing, to the civic conversation. Welcome, Nora.
Thanks for having me.
I guess you have some things, some screen stuff, so I'll unshare mine.
Oh, sure.
Or I'll share mine, I suppose. Or, I don't know. And let you take over.
Awesome. Yeah, so thank you for that introduction. I don't know if you have any sort of opening questions or you just want me to chat a little bit about Voca and what we do.
It's about voice. Tell us more.
It is about voice. So yeah, as Dennis mentioned, we conduct what we call micropolls. So these are really short form, low touch, but high frequency polls that go out via text message to a group of participants that we have across the state of California. And every week we send a text message about a different topic. So sometimes these topics are related to sustainability, but we also do polling based on sort of, whatever is the issue of the day. And we try to follow closely what is going on in Sacramento and if there are any ballot measures that are being considered or assembly bills, Senate bills, and try to give as many people as we can a chance to learn about this and then to weigh in. So that's really what we're all about, is trying to bring as many people as we can into the civic conversation, even those who might not otherwise have had an opportunity to engage, either because they're busy, they don't have internet access, what have you. Let's see here. Yeah, so the problem that we're really trying to solve here is that Voca was founded around the idea that there's a disconnect between individual citizens and then the officials, agencies, and organizations that serve them. And what we mean by this is that on the side of individuals are becoming increasingly distrustful of politicians and political organizations. I think we've all seen how, particularly at the national level, the discourse has become hyper-partisan, hyper-polarized, and honestly not super productive at all times. And so a lot of people don't engage in politics or political conversation, either because they don't think they can make a difference, they're afraid of being criticized by their peers, by that uncle on Facebook or that friend, or they don't think that they're informed enough. They don't think they're aware enough of the issues to have an informed opinion, and so they just don't engage. Meanwhile, on the other side of the aisle, elected officials, community organizations, all of these people that are out actually working in the community have a really hard time often building trust with individuals. They end up hearing from the same vocal minority over and over again. And that's the percent of the population, the small percent that actually has, the time, the resources, the money to advocate for what they want. And that's not oftentimes, almost never, is that representative of the whole population. So yeah, and also we focus on the state and local level because officials often struggle to, uplift the issues that they're facing in light of the national conversation, in which news outlets, conversation and political conversation in general has become increasingly focused on the national level, while at the local and state level, it's much more possible for you as an individual to make a difference and for you to actually collaborate with your elected officials and government agencies. So Voca is really about taking simple steps to start the conversation and to build trust and communication between individuals and then the officials and organizations and agencies that serve them. So Voca Works, we have this sort of two-sided product here. How Voca works for individuals is super simple. You sign up on our website, which is www.voca.vote. And then every week you get a text message with a link to a poll on that week's topic. And so that's an opportunity for you to learn a little bit about whatever the topic is if you weren't already familiar, and then share your opinion. We then take that feedback and we present it to any number of people, from state legislators to the governor's office. This past week, we had a question about the criminal justice system. And so I wrote a little letter to the California Center for Rehabilitation. And that's really all about making it as easy as possible to take the 5 minutes that you put into answering a Voca poll and turning that into real impact and real, broadcasting that as loud as we possibly can. And then the kind of fourth and final step, and this is a very much a when and if you're interested, we like to offer steps to get more involved. If there's a topic one week that you really feel passionately about, we offer sometimes, links to events, links to petitions, the opportunity to connect with different organizations that are working on those issues. But again, we're really trying to build the very first rung on the ladder of engagement and make it as accessible to as many people as we can. So that's where we focus most of our efforts. I'll just touch very briefly on the other side of it. We're starting to reach out and work with more local organizations to bring more local content to Voca. And from that perspective, it's a pretty simple process. It takes only a few minutes to set up one of our polls. And then we have those results come in real time. So you can watch as your constituents are commenting, upvoting each other's comments, responding. You can see how the data changes over time. And we also offer some features like the ability to demographically weight the results to help account for the fact that it's very difficult to get a truly representative sample size. So we do try to do our best to show what the results would look like if we were able to ask everyone in your area. I just have a couple examples here, and Dennis, feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions or want to jump in with anything.
Oh, you're doing great. Keep going.
Here's an example of a statewide question that we ran recently, which I thought would be relevant to the sustainability community in particular. And this is about the future of nuclear energy production in California. So you can just take a quick look at this is the view that you see as a participant, but also the view that you see as an elected official, as an organization that's receiving these results. So you get a chance to see kind of the overall view, the big picture, and then to drill in to individual comments that people have submitted, ranked by popularity amongst the community. Here's another example on a different topic. This was about the criminal justice system and police reforms. This was SB 2 particularly. We do try to follow, the particular bills that are coming through, because I think that's something where there tends to be a lot of opacity in the process. It can be difficult to follow what exactly is going on in Sacramento, because in part there are so many bills and there's so much going on. And oftentimes these bills are very complicated. And so we do our best to simplify, but also to link out to more information, so that if you do want to dive deeper into any given topic, you can do that. Here's an example of a question at the local level. And as I mentioned, we're really hoping to get more into local questions, because we've heard from our participants that they really love learning more about local issues. There's not really a great place to do that right now. I mean, you have sort of your next door, but you don't have a place where you can really go and share feedback and know that it's going to be heard by the people with the power to change the status quo. So this is just an example of a question that we asked in Redwood City, I believe at the beginning of this year. Just some quick numbers here. I think Dennis mentioned we have about 33,000 participants across California right now. We've got about over a quarter of average response rate. We've collected over 700,000 votes, and this is actually not all time. This is just in the past couple of years. Voca's been around since 2017, operating hyper locally in San Mateo County. And then we have over 100,000 comments that we've collected, and again, in the same time period. And yeah, just briefly to touch on, again, what I mentioned about the local efforts, we are starting a pilot program. We're looking for a group of government agencies, elected officials, or community organizations. This could be a nonprofit, could be someone focused on a particular issue, who are interested in trying out sort of our technology and our capabilities and working with us to create the best possible product that we can for engaging the community and for getting real representative feedback. So if you're at all interested, please check us out at voca.vote/local pilot, or you can email me at nora@voca.vote or reach out at contact@voca.vote as well. So this is pretty much all that I had for my presentation here.
Yeah, no, great, Nora, thank you. And somebody yesterday mentioned the hair club for men kind of thing. You know, I'm not just, you know, involved in it. I'm a customer, but with Voca, I have to say I'm a real big fan of what Nora and the Voca folks do in terms of local engagement. And I keep seeing, you know, a lot of opportunities for this. And I think it's great, you know, in some ways, the more local, the better, in my opinion, because I mean, you know, just people have the power, but it's a tough, you know, in aggregate, it's almost there's more power, you know, with local voices on local issues, and you know, obviously they do as you get up into other areas, but from professional polling, it's very interesting in that unless you know candidates pay for it, there's hardly any polling in the majority of congressional districts, even, let alone state senate or state assembly districts or city councils. You know, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a desert. And so, you know, kind of this idea of almost local polling on issues, I think is really powerful. So
and just to
Nora,
speak to that
go
for a
ahead.
minute, I think that, you know, part of the reason that there's not more polling, or I think there's two things. One is you're right, there's not a ton of polling, but the second part is that what polling there is really not visible to anyone besides
oh no, it's private.
the people that participate and the people who've commissioned the polls. And so it's difficult as an individual to get a sense of how your community stands. And so you kind of rely on the people that you talk to, the circles that you hang out in, what you see on the internet. And as we know, it's very easy to get into thought bubbles. So one of the great things about Voca is that we try to raise up differing opinions and differing voices and give everyone a safe space to share what they think and what they believe. And that is, you know, really core to our mission.
Yeah, and I can just say, in terms of the user interface, you get a text message, I think every Thursday,
Yep.
and where you can vote. There's always 5 choices, and there is almost always more information on a given topic, you know, background information, and to look into before, you know, you make a choice. And then a percentage of people have comments, and a lot of the comments are, you know, quite interesting when you get feedback on your vote, you know, so many days later. And Nora, actually, one question I saw where there's choices in terms of, you can look at, you know, like comments within each of the 5 categories, or the number of categories, but then there's also ones that seem like they're weighted influential, I think it was called.
Yeah, so we're still working on the best way to sort of parse and display these comments. I think in the future, there's a lot of work that we could do around, you know, general sentiment analysis and maybe even using some natural language processing. But for now, our very first foray into that is giving each comment a score, and that's simply the number of times that it was viewed, or the number of times that it was upvoted divided by the number of times that it was viewed. So trying to approximate, of the people that saw it, how many found it useful. So that's what the influential tab is right now. But like I said, it's really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what we could do with all of that, all those open-ended responses.
So we have a couple questions,
Yeah.
and one of them is, can you explain how you educate people on these issues so they can make informed choices? And this is, I guess, more of the background, choosing the background information.
Yeah. So I will say that's one of the most challenging things that we do. And I won't say that we always do it perfectly, but I will say that we're always learning and trying to do better. Sort of the constraint that we have on our format is that we want each of our questions to be able to fit into a 6-segment text message, which is, about 800 to 900 characters. So there's only so much background that we can give on any topic. And we also know that if we were to give a much longer form explanation, we lose a lot of people in the process because a lot of people, just are busy and don't have the time or interest to read a ton of background information. So what we try to do is we try to sum it up as best we can. We then work with an awesome network of over 100 volunteers who then, will proofread our questions, make sure that it's clear, make sure that there's enough information in there for someone to make an informed decision, at least a relatively informed decision. And then, as Dennis said, we always try to include a link to learn more. So if you do read, our paragraph of background and you feel like, hey, I still really don't understand this well enough to weigh in, we give you a place to go where you can continue learning and you can come back and vote and share your opinion.
Yeah, I do want to say, as one of those back of the house volunteers, that there is almost a fanatical attempt at neutrality of question. And so that's really good to see that there's a lot of consideration of that, and consideration even of the neutrality of the background information. I mean, it's not like, perhaps there might be two opposing views, but there's definitely a strong sense of imposing fairness.
Yeah, and I will say one of the things that makes me the happiest is, oftentimes we'll get email feedback from our participants who feel, the question wasn't worded in the best way possible. And one of the best things is when we get emails from people, let's say more conservative, saying, hey, this question was just totally a giveaway to the liberals. And then we get emails from people on the very liberal side saying, hey, this question was so biased towards the conservatives that we kind of know that we found the right balance there. And liberal conservative, just one example, there's all sorts of different parts of the political ideological spectrum that we try to balance.
We have another question from Brianne Boyle, who actually presented from the Office of Sustainability for Santa Clara County. And
Awesome.
I told both Tanya and Brianne, they had mentioned that they were looking in future for community outreach on a lot of their, they will be kind of looking for feedback from the community on sustainability questions. So
Yeah.
anyway, she and I wanted to highlight, that your session. But so anyway, she mentioned, is information collected on the demographics of respondents?
Yes, short answer is yes. We do allow opting out of demographics. We felt like it was important to give everyone a safe space. So if there are people who don't feel comfortable sharing a particular piece of demographic information, we don't bar them from participating. But yes, we do collect extensive demographic information. And I think I mentioned earlier, we do use that to come up with a demographically weighted score or demographically weighted version of our results, which we use to help kind of counterbalance the fact that we may over or underrepresent certain demographics in our population of users.
Well, thank you. Nora, I think this is kind of a fascinating area. It's a long way from even traditional polling. I mean, they're still talking about how, using landlines and things. And so I think this approach is much more realistic you know, for the way we live today. And, you know, I mean, pretty much everybody has a cell phone, and, you know, so the text thing I think is really strong. And so anyway, thanks for coming and explaining this, and certainly look at applications of Voca throughout.
Yeah, and if you're an individual, please, if you're interested, sign up. It only takes a couple of minutes. www.
Yeah, that's Voca. A lot of people were asking about the email address, and it's simply Voca, VOCA, .vote, VOTE.
Yep. And I think my colleague Sean, he just dropped a link in the chat, so feel free to check it out.